Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment in every person's life when the mirror demands honesty. A moment when you can no longer pretend that almost enough is still enough. Too many people wake up every morning breathing, but not truly living because they've settled. They've mistaken comfort for peace and confusion for love. They've accepted crumbs while pretending they're sitting at a feast. Listen to me. You were not created to live in fragments of fulfillment. You were made to walk in wholeness. You were designed for purpose, not for pain disguised as potential. But when you don't know your worth, you will tolerate what was meant to test you instead of release you. Sometimes life will whisper, "This isn't it." You'll feel it deep in your spirit, a restlessness that keeps you awake at night. That's not anxiety, that's awakening. It's the divine signal that says, you've settled in a space smaller than your calling. Stop negotiating your value for validation. Stop confusing loyalty with limitation. You can love people and still outgrow them. You can be grateful and still desire more. Growth doesn't make you greedy. It makes you obedient to the greatness inside of you. You don't have to apologize for wanting peace instead of chaos, clarity instead of confusion, or purpose instead of popularity. You deserve relationships that don't require you to shrink, dreams that don't demand you to dim your light, opportunities that don't rob you of joy. If you feel empty, it's because you're pouring into places that can't pour back. If you feel unseen, it's because you're standing in the wrong room. And if you feel unworthy, it's because you've forgotten who you are. You are not average. You are not random. You are not replaceable. You are a masterpiece designed with precision, purpose, and power. Stop settling for half-fulfilled promises when you were born for overflow. So today, make a decision. Let go of what's almost right. Release what drains you. Walk away from what keeps you questioning your value. Because when you stop settling, you start soaring. And when you start soaring, you'll realize the only thing standing between you and abundance was the belief that you didn't deserve it. There comes a point in your journey when you must confront the truth. You have been accepting less than you deserve, calling it humility, wearing it like a badge of honor. You have been convincing yourself that being grateful for the bare minimum makes you noble. But the truth is, gratitude should not be an excuse for stagnation. You were not created for crumbs. You were not born to live off leftovers of love, attention, or opportunity. You were not placed on this earth to constantly prove your worth to people who only see a portion of your potential. Crumbs are what remain when the feast has ended. Crumbs are what people drop when they're done consuming what they value most. And if you're not careful, you'll find yourself chasing what's beneath you simply because you've forgotten how to reach for what's meant for you. Somewhere along the way, life convinced you that wanting more makes you ungrateful. But let me tell you something, it's not pride to want peace. It's not greed to want growth. It's not selfish to want to be seen, respected, and valued in the spaces where you pour your heart. The truth is, too many people have become comfortable living in almost loved, almost valued, almost fulfilled, almost happy. And you begin to mistake those almost for abundance because you've been in lack for so long. The moment you remember who you are, the moment you recognize that you are chosen, purposeful, powerful, you will realize that crumbs can no longer satisfy your hunger. The table was never meant to be a distant dream. It was meant to be your seat of belonging. Stop apologizing for desiring the fullness of what was promised to you. You are not here to survive on temporary fixes or shallow relationships. You were designed for depth, for meaningful connections, purposeful pursuits, and peace that doesn't depend on performance. There is something divine inside of you that refuses to settle because it knows you were made for more. Restlessness, that pull in your soul, that discomfort in small spaces, that's not dissatisfaction, that's destiny calling. When you settle for crumbs, you teach the world how to treat you. You teach people that they can give you less and still have your loyalty. You teach circumstances that they can limit your growth and still have your agreement. But when you rise and declare, no more crumbs, you are not being rebellious, you are being restored. You are reclaiming the power to say, I am worthy of the full portion of what life has for me. You see, sometimes life will strip you of everything comfortable to remind you of everything you're capable of. You might have to walk away from tables where you were once invited, not because you don't appreciate the invitation, because you realize the meal being served no longer feeds your soul. You cannot feast where there is famine and respect. You cannot thrive in places that only tolerate your light instead of celebrating it. You were not created to spend your life begging for attention from those who can't see your value. You were not created to fight for space in people's lives who keep showing you you're optional. The God who designed you did not make a mistake. You carry too much purpose to live a life that only scratches the surface of who you are meant to be. You deserve fullness in love, in peace, in purpose, in joy. But fullness comes with faith. It comes when you decide to believe that what's ahead of you is worth more than what you're leaving behind. It comes when you stop settling for situations that look good but feel wrong. It comes when you stop chasing validation from people who benefit from your insecurity. It comes when you stop making excuses for the people, the jobs, relationships, or the habits that drain you. Crumbs will always be available, but they will never satisfy. You can keep trying to make almost feel like enough, but deep down you'll always know you were made for something more. And that something more doesn't come by begging. It comes by believing. It doesn't come by pleading for someone to notice you. It comes by remembering who you already are. There is a version of you waiting on the other side of courage. A version that refuses to beg for love because it understands that love given freely is worth more than attention earned through struggle. Version that no longer lowers their standards to keep company with inconsistency. A version that walks into rooms knowing I belong here, not because they let me in, but because I was born to be here. Every time you choose to stay where you're not valued, you delay the blessing that's waiting where you're meant to be celebrated. Every time you cling to crumbs, you forfeit the feast. You cannot receive what's next if your hands are still holding what's no longer meant for you. Sometimes God will let something fall apart just to show you how much you've been settling. That's not rejection, that's redirection. So lift your head, dry your tears, stop making excuses for why you can't have more. You are not asking for too much. You are simply asking from the wrong source. The right opportunities, the right people, the right peace, they won't require you to beg. They will meet you where you are because they were designed for you. This is your reminder you were not created for crumbs. You were created to sit at the table of purpose, to walk in abundance, to breathe freely in peace. You were created to love without fear and to rise without apology. The moment you realize that, you'll stop chasing what was never yours and start attracting what was always waiting for you. Don't let fear convince you that crumbs are enough. Don't let insecurity whisper that this is all there is. You've come too far, endured too much, and grown too deeply to live small. The world needs the full version of you, not the one who settles, not the one who shrinks, but the one who stands up and says, I am worthy of more. I'm no longer afraid to claim it. Because the truth is, when you finally stop settling for crumbs, you don't just change your circumstances, you change your spirit. You begin to walk differently, speak differently, dream differently. You begin to expect the fullness that was promised to you. And the moment you do, life starts to rise to meet you at the level of your belief. You were not created for crumbs. You were created for abundance, for joy, for purpose, for greatness. So stand up, lift your head, and claim your portion. Because everything you've been settling for is nothing compared to everything you deserve. There comes a moment in life when peace doesn't feel peaceful anymore. You sit in familiar spaces that once felt safe, yet something inside you whispers, you don't belong here anymore. You can't explain it, but you feel it. A stirring deep within your spirit. The conversations that used to excite you now feel empty. The routines that once brought comfort now feel like cages. People you once fit with no longer seem to understand your language. That feeling, that uneasy pull, that quiet discomfort, it's not confusion. It's awakening. Restlessness is not always a problem to be fixed. Sometimes it's a divine alarm clock going off in your soul. It's the sound of purpose calling you out of patterns that no longer serve you. It's the reminder that you are evolving. You've outgrown what used to fit. And that's not something to fear. That's something to honor. Because growth never happens in still waters. It happens in the stirring. Too many people mistake restlessness for failure. They think that because they no longer feel content, something must be wrong. What if it's not wrong? What if it's right on time? What if the frustration, the boredom, the emptiness are not punishments, invitations to rise higher, to see deeper, to move forward? You can't stay in the same place and expect transformation. The same soil that once nourished you can become too small for your roots when it's time to grow. That restless ache in your heart is not your enemy. It's your compass. It's telling you that there's more beyond where you are. You may not know what more looks like yet, but that's okay. Awakening doesn't come with clarity first. It comes with conviction. You start to sense that your time here is done. You begin to see cracks in the walls you once called home. You feel an internal nudge to stretch, to explore, to trust something unseen. Restlessness is often the first stage of transformation. Before the butterfly flies, the caterpillar must outgrow the cocoon. It doesn't mean the cocoon was bad. It simply means its purpose has been fulfilled. You can't stay where you were and become who you're meant to be. Sometimes you have to walk away from what's familiar to step into what's divine. That unease, that tug in your chest, that voice that says, there's more. That's life preparing you for a new dimension of purpose. You may find yourself waking up at night wondering, why do I feel unsettled when everything seems fine? You look around and see nothing wrong, yet inside something feels incomplete. That's because your soul doesn't measure peace by appearances. It measures peace by alignment. And when your environment no longer matches your evolution, you'll feel it. The things you used to tolerate will start to bother you. The noise you once ignored will become too loud. The energy around you will start to feel heavy, not because it's changed, but because you have. When you start awakening, you stop being entertained by things that drain your purpose. You stop laughing at empty conversations. Stop chasing approval from people who can't see your vision. Stop pretending that fine is enough. Restlessness is the breaking of illusion, the moment your spirit refuses to play small any longer. It's uncomfortable because awakening always is. The in between seasons are never easy. You're no longer who you were, but not yet who you're becoming. You're in the hallway between doors, waiting for the next one to open. But hear this, that hallway is holy ground. Do not rush the process. Don't try to silence the restlessness by forcing yourself back into spaces that no longer fit. Don't numb it with distractions, relationships, or business. Sit with it. Listen to it. Restlessness is not chaos, it's communication. It's your higher self trying to get your attention, whispering, you were made for more. You can't evolve if you keep shrinking to stay comfortable. Every great awakening begins with a divine stern disturbance, something that shakes you out of sleep and forces you to see your life clearly. And maybe the job you've outgrown keeps draining your joy. Maybe the relationship that once felt like home now feels heavy. Maybe the habits that once gave you comfort now keep you small. Whatever it is, that discomfort is sacred. It's the evidence that you're waking up. You are beginning to realize that peace doesn't come from staying still. It comes from stepping into what's next. Every time you ignore that inner restlessness, you delay your destiny, you prolong your growth by clinging to what's already expired. But when you listen, when you dare to trust the pull, you start to walk in the direction of your purpose. Restlessness is not a curse, it's confirmation. It means your spirit is alive. It means something greater is calling you forward. There's beauty in the breaking. There's clarity in the discomfort. Every tear, every sigh, every sleepless night is shaping you into someone stronger, wiser, and freer. You can't become new without letting go of the old. You can't reach your next level while staying loyal to your last one. And yes, it will hurt. Growth always does. The pain of evolution is far better than the numbness of stagnation. The moment you stop fighting the restlessness and start flowing with it, you begin to see the bigger picture. You begin to understand that it's not life falling apart, it's life rearranging itself to fit your new season. The doors closing aren't rejection, they're redirection. The endings aren't punishment, they're preparation. The silence isn't abandonment, it's space being made for new sound. You might not see it now. The places where you feel most uncomfortable are the places where transformation is happening. You are being stretched. You are being refined. You are being called out of the familiar into the extraordinary. So instead of asking, why do I feel restless? Start asking, what am I being called toward? That question shifts your focus from frustration to faith. Restlessness is an awakening, not of your circumstances, but of your consciousness. It's your soul saying, wake up, there's more to you than this. Don't resist it. Don't silence it. Embrace it. Because one day you'll look back and realize that the very season that felt the most unsettling was the one that set you free. So if you're restless right now, good. It means you're waking up. It means you've outgrown pretending. It means your spirit has started to crave the truth more than the comfort of pretending everything's fine. That's where power begins. That's where destiny starts to breathe. Let the restlessness move you. Let it teach you. Let it guide you. Because it's not just a feeling, it's a divine invitation to rise, to evolve, to step into the version of yourself that's been waiting on the other side of fear. You're not lost. You're awakening. And when the awakening is complete, you'll look around and realize you were never breaking down. You were breaking open. You were never being punished. You were being prepared. The unease wasn't your ending, it was your beginning. You were never meant to stay asleep in comfort when your calling was asking you to rise. There is a quiet danger in comfort, one so subtle that most people never see it coming. It doesn't destroy you all at once, it lulls you to sleep. It wraps itself around your ambition like a soft blanket and whispers, you're doing fine right where you are. But comfort, if left unchecked, becomes a cage, a golden prison that convinces you to stop growing, stop stretching, stop believing that more is possible. It looks peaceful on the outside. Inside, it kills your potential one quiet compromise at a time. We all crave stability. We all want moments of rest. There's a difference between peace and comfort. Peace restores you, comfort restricts you. Peace gives you strength to keep going. Comfort convinces you there's no need to move. And when you start confusing comfort for peace, you stop chasing purpose. You start protecting your routine instead of pursuing your calling. You stop stepping out in faith and start settling for what's easy. Comfort feels good because it's predictable. It's safe. It doesn't ask anything from you. It doesn't challenge you to change. And it never risks rejection or failure. But that's exactly why it's dangerous. Growth doesn't happen in predictability, it happens in pressure. Strength doesn't develop in safety, it develops in struggle. Every great thing that's ever been built was born out of discomfort. Someone decided that staying the same hurt more than the fear of change. Comfort tells you, stay where you are. You've done enough. Don't risk the unknown. But purpose whispers, there's more to you than this, and that's where the tension begins. You start to feel torn between what feels safe and what feels right, between what's familiar and what's fulfilling. That pull you feel in your spirit isn't confusion, it's calling. It's the divine reminder that you weren't created to live a small, predictable life. The truth is, nothing grows in comfort zones. Flowers only bloom when their seeds break. Muscles only build when they're stretched. Diamonds only form under pressure. So why do we think our purpose will be any different? If you never step out of your comfort zone, you'll never see the fullness of who you could become. Comfort may protect you from pain, but it also shields you from power. It's a place where dreams go to die quietly, buried under the weight of fear disguised as peace. Some people never experience transformation because they've fallen in love with what's familiar. They cling to the same job, the same patterns, the same relationships, not because they're happy, but because they're comfortable. It's easier to stay where they are than to face the unknown. But the problem with that is, What's comfortable now will become painful later. What feels safe today may suffocate you tomorrow, because anything that no longer challenges you will eventually change you, just not in the way you want. There's a moment in everyone's journey when comfort starts to feel like confinement. You wake up one morning and realize you're too big for the life you've settled into. The conversations no longer inspire you. The routine no longer excites you, and deep down you know something's missing. That's not failure. That's awakening. That's your soul reminding you that you were made for movement. You can't soar while sitting still. Every great breakthrough begins with discomfort. You'll never discover your true strength until life pushes you beyond what's easy. You'll never know how much potential you carry until the situation demands more of you than you thought you had. Growth hurts. It stretches your mind, tests your patience, and challenges your faith. But the pain of growth is far better than the numbness of comfort. Comfort says, don't take that risk. What if you fail? Purpose says, what if you don't? Comfort says, you might lose what you have. Purpose says, you might gain what you were born for. Comfort says, stay small, stay quiet, stay safe. Purpose says, rise up, speak out, step forward. You can't listen to both voices and grow. You have to choose which one you'll obey, the voice of fear or the voice of faith. Many people spend their whole lives behind invisible bars made of routine, excuses, and fear of change. They don't realize the door has been open the whole time. All they have to do is walk through it. The unknown is intimidating, yes. It's also where freedom lies. You can't experience new levels of joy, peace, or fulfillment while clinging to the old. You can't step into your next chapter if you're still rereading the last one. Think about it. Every major turning point in your life happened when you got uncomfortable, when you decided to leave something that no longer served you. When you took a risk, even though you were afraid, when you pushed through fear instead of letting it paralyze you. Growth requires courage. Courage requires movement. You cannot become who you were created to be while staying where you are. Comfort can disguise itself as wisdom. It will whisper, be realistic. Don't dream too big. Don't expect too much. But realism without faith is just fear in disguise. You have to stop letting logic talk you out of destiny. You have to stop letting fear disguise itself as being practical, because comfort will always find a reason to keep you small. It will always offer an excuse to delay your purpose. It will always find a way to convince you that later is safer than now. But one day, you'll look back and realize that later never came. You'll realize that all the times you waited for the right moment, it was waiting for you to take the first step. The cage of comfort only opens when you move. The key has always been in your hands. Your decision, your faith, your willingness to trust the unknown. So let this be your awakening. Comfort isn't peace, it's paralysis. It's the illusion of safety that costs you your destiny. The longer you stay there, the quieter your dreams become. The smaller your courage gets. The dimmer your light shines. But the moment you decide to step beyond it, everything changes. The moment you choose growth over comfort, life starts to expand around you. Doors open. New opportunities arise. Peace replaces fear because you finally align with who you were created to be. Comfort might feel good for a season, but it's not meant to be your permanent address. You were born to move, to build, to create, to evolve. Don't let the ease of today rob you of the greatness of tomorrow. Don't let fear of the unknown keep you from discovering the beauty of what's possible. You are not meant to survive life. You are meant to live it fully. So if you feel the cage of comfort closing around you, don't panic. Push. Push against the fear. Push through the doubt. Push beyond the familiar. You'll find that the bars were never locked. They were made of your own hesitation. Freedom begins where comfort ends. You were not created to live half awake. You were not created to spend your life wondering what if. You were created to step out, to take risks, to trust that what's on the other side of discomfort is greater than anything you're leaving behind. Comfort can be a cage, but only if you stay inside it. The moment you choose courage over comfort, the walls start to fall, and you'll realize that what once felt safe was actually keeping you from soaring. Step out, because your wings were never meant to rest. They were meant to rise. There comes a time in life when you have to stop explaining, stop begging, stop proving, and simply stand in the truth of who you are. For too long, you've allowed people, circumstances, and even your own doubts to make you question your value. You've given too many discounts to people who never paid full price for your heart. You've poured yourself into situations that couldn't contain the depth of your soul. You've tried to make people see your worth when all along your worth was never theirs to decide. Knowing your worth isn't arrogance, it's awareness. It's recognizing that you were designed intentionally, purposefully, and beautifully. It's realizing that you carry something sacred inside of you that no one else can replicate. You were never meant to compete for attention, to chase approval, or to plead for love that should have been freely given. You were created with purpose, not to be tolerated, but to be treasured. The problem is, many of us were taught to confuse humility with self-neglect. We were told that playing small makes us kind, that being quiet makes us wise, that accepting less makes us grateful. But humility doesn't mean shrinking. True humility means knowing exactly who you are and choosing not to lower your value to make others comfortable. There is nothing noble about making yourself less so others can feel more. You cannot negotiate your worth with people who benefit from your confusion. The more unsure you are of yourself, the easier it becomes for others to take advantage of your loyalty, your kindness, and your time. When you don't set the standard for how you deserve to be treated, someone else will, and it will always be lower than what you deserve. The world responds to how you see yourself. If you treat yourself like an afterthought, others will too. You are not meant to chase what you are worthy of attracting. Love that's meant for you doesn't make you beg for it. Respect that's real doesn't have to be earned through exhaustion. Opportunities that align with your purpose don't come through manipulation or compromise. They come through confidence. When you know who you are, you stop running after validation and start walking in conviction. There's power in boundaries. When you know your worth, you learn to say no without guilt. You stop over-explaining your decisions to people who wouldn't understand them anyway. You stop feeling obligated to be available for everyone. You start realizing that your time, your energy, and your peace are currencies, and you get to decide who can afford them. Every time you say yes to something that drains you, you're saying no to something that could heal you. It's time to stop apologizing for expecting more. You're not asking for too much. You're just asking from people who are giving too little. You deserve love that doesn't come with conditions, support that doesn't require you to perform, and respect that doesn't disappear when you set boundaries. You deserve consistency, not confusion. You deserve peace, not persuasion. You deserve effort, not excuses. Stop negotiating your worth just to be accepted. If they have to diminish you to stay comfortable around you, let them go. If they have to question your confidence to feel secure in their own, they were never your people. Some relationships, some environments, some opportunities are not rejection when they end. They're redirection. They're reminders that you are meant for something higher, and you can't get there while holding on to things that don't value your essence. Every time you compromise who you are to keep something or someone in your life, you lose a piece of yourself. Every time you downplay your gifts to fit in, you betray your purpose. Every time you settle for less than respect, you teach others that your boundaries are negotiable. You were not created to be negotiable. You were created to be undeniable. You don't have to prove your worth, you just have to embody it. You truly know your worth. Your silence speaks louder than your explanations. You stop arguing to be understood. You stop defending your truth to people who thrive on misunderstanding it. You begin to move with quiet confidence. Not because you think you're better, because you finally realize you're whole. You start walking away from what doesn't feed your peace, because you understand that peace is not a privilege, it's your birthright. You don't have to fight for a seat at every table. Sometimes the table isn't too crowded, it's just not meant for you. Sometimes God removes you from certain rooms because He's preparing one where your voice won't have to fight to be heard. Don't confuse exclusion with rejection. Sometimes it's divine protection. When you know your worth, you stop mourning doors that closed and start thanking God for the ones that didn't open. Knowing your worth means trusting that what's meant for you won't require you to compromise who you are to keep it. It means believing that peace is more valuable than popularity, that purpose is greater than approval, and that love is proven through presence, not promises. It means recognizing that not everyone will understand your standards and being okay with that. You don't need everyone's validation to confirm your value. There will be people who call you too much because you no longer accept too little. Let them talk. You don't have to explain why you're not tolerating what broke you before. You're not bitter. You're better. You're not cold. You're clear. You're not hard to love. You just finally know what real love feels like. You've worked too hard to rediscover yourself, to start discounting your worth again. The lessons you've learned, the healing you've walked through, the strength you've built, they all mean something. They've shaped you into someone who refuses to be undervalued. Don't forget that. You didn't go through all that pain to return to what once broke you. It's time to stop negotiating your value for temporary validation. You are not an option to be considered. You are a priority to be honored. You are not a backup plan. You are the main purpose. The people who are meant for you will recognize your worth without you having to explain it. The opportunities designed for you will meet you where you are without you having to chase them. So stand tall in your truth. Walk like you know what you bring to the table, because you do. You bring loyalty, depth, love, wisdom, and strength. And if someone can't see that, that's not your loss, that's their blindness. You don't have to lower yourself to be seen. The right people will recognize your light even when you're not trying to shine. Knowing your worth means you stop negotiating your identity for acceptance. It means you stop trying to prove to anyone that you deserve to be treated with respect. It means you finally understand that your value is not determined by how others see you, but by how you see yourself. So lift your head. Stop chasing crumbs when you were born to feast. Stop apologizing for the standards that protect your peace. Stop explaining your boundaries to people who benefit from you not having any. You don't owe anyone access to your soul just because they ask for it. You don't owe anyone your energy just because they're comfortable taking it. You are not hard to love. You're just no longer easy to misuse. You are not too much. You've just stopped accepting too little. And that shift, that quiet confidence, unshakable peace you carry, that's what it looks like to know your worth. Never again negotiate it. Never again question it. Never again hand it over to people who don't know what to do with it. Because once you truly know who you are, you'll stop fighting for a seat at tables that weren't built for you and start building your own. There comes a point in every person's journey where remaining the same costs more than change ever could. A point where staying connected to certain people, habits, and environments begins to suffocate your spirit. You feel it, that tug inside of you, that quiet pull towards something greater, something freer. It's not arrogance, it's not pride, it's not rejection, it's growth. And growth always requires separation. We don't like that truth because separation feels like loss. It feels like letting go of pieces of yourself. But what you're really releasing is the version of you that no longer fits who you're becoming. You cannot evolve and remain attached to everything that defined your past. Some things are not meant to go with you into your next chapter. Some relationships were only meant to teach you, not travel with you. Growth demands distance. Not because you're better than others, because you're becoming different. You start to notice that certain conversations no longer feed your spirit. The gossip that once entertained you now exhausts you. The chaos you once normalized now disrupts your peace. That's how you know you're changing. You can't keep doing what you used to do and expect to feel fulfilled. Maturity shifts your appetite. What once satisfied you now feels shallow. What once intimidated you now feels necessary. But here's the hard truth. Separation hurts. It's lonely. It's confusing. It's that in-between space where you've outgrown your past, but haven't yet stepped into your future. The old feels too small. New feels too far away. You start questioning yourself, am I doing the right thing? Did I change too much? Why does this feel so heavy? But you must remember, pain is part of the process. Caterpillars don't become butterflies without shedding their old form. Growth never happens without some discomfort. Sometimes separation is not a punishment, it's protection. When God starts pulling people out of your life, it's not rejection, it's redirection. He's removing distractions, clearing your space, and pruning your circle so that what's meant to grow and you can actually breathe. Not everyone can handle your evolution. Not everyone who started with you is meant to finish with you. And that's okay. You can love people and still recognize that their season in your story has ended. Growth will always test your loyalty, not to people, but to purpose. You will have to choose between pleasing others and following the call inside you. Some people loved you for who you were, not for who you're becoming. The moment you start changing, they'll call you distant, arrogant, or cold. But what they don't understand is that growth changes your rhythm. You can't dance to the same tune when you've outgrown the music. Separation is sacred. It gives you clarity. When you step back from noise, you start hearing your own voice again. You begin to realize what you truly want, what truly matters, and what's been draining your energy. Some of the confusion you've been praying for clarity about is simply too many voices around you. When you're always surrounded, can't hear yourself think. Sometimes the silence you fear is the very space where God is trying to speak. You have to be willing to walk alone for a while. Path to growth is narrow. It's not crowded and it's not comfortable, but it's necessary. You can't grow in rooms that keep you small. You can't heal in environments that keep you hurting. You can't evolve in circles that feed your old identity. To rise, you must release, and that release will cost you things, but it will also set you free. The truth is, separation exposes strength. It shows you who's real, who's loyal, who was only attached to your comfort. Some people love the version of you that needed saving, not the version of you that's now standing strong. Some connections were built on your brokenness, not your wholeness. When you heal, the dynamics shift. That's why healing can be lonely, because you start to see everything differently. Don't resist the pruning process. When a gardener prunes a tree, they cut off branches not because they're dead, but because they're taking strength away from the parts that need to bloom. In the same way, separation isn't always about removing what's bad. Sometimes it's about making room for what's better. You can't carry everything and expect to grow. Growth requires lightness, freedom, and space. You'll notice that as you rise, your circle will shrink. That's not a sign of failure, it's a sign of focus. Fewer voices, clearer vision, less distraction, more direction. You're no longer available for everything because you're finally aligned with something greater. You're learning to protect your peace, your time, and your calling. That's maturity. That's growth. And yes, some days it will hurt. You'll miss people. You'll question your decisions. You'll wonder if it's worth it. But if you could see the version of yourself waiting on the other side of this separation, you'd understand why it's necessary. The peace you're about to walk into will make sense of every tear. The clarity you're gaining will make you thankful for every goodbye. Sometimes growth means walking away from people you love, but who no longer love you in the way you need. Sometimes means saying goodbye to opportunities that no longer align with your integrity. Sometimes it means releasing old dreams to make room for new vision. Growth isn't always about addition. It's often about subtraction. You can't receive what's next if your hands are still full of what was. Separation refines you. It teaches you to stand on your own. It strengthens your discernment, helps you see that you don't need constant validation to move forward. You begin to realize that solitude is not loneliness, it's power. It's where you find your voice, rebuild your confidence, and reconnect with your purpose. So don't fear the distance that growth demands. Embrace it. Let the silence stretch you. Let the solitude shape you. Let the pruning prepare you. You are not losing your way, you are finding it. You are not walking away from love. You are walking toward alignment. You are not becoming distant. You are becoming focused. One day, the very things you cried over losing will make sense. You'll see that those separations were the soil for your transformation. You'll thank the moments that hurt because they built the strength you now carry. Growth always looks like loss before it looks like liberation. When the dust settles, you'll see that everything you let go of was only clearing space for what you were meant to receive. Remember this, every connection is meant to be permanent. Some people are lessons, not lifetimes. Some places are starting points, not destinations. Some dreams are stepping stones, not final visions. You have to be brave enough to release what's no longer growing you. Because growth doesn't come without separation, and separation is the price of elevation. You may walk alone for a season, but you won't walk empty. You'll walk with purpose. You'll walk with peace. You'll walk with strength you didn't know you had. And when you look back, you'll realize that every goodbye, every distance, every moment of solitude was leading you right where you were meant to be. Free, focused, ready for more. There comes a point in your journey when you realize that peace is not a luxury. It's a necessity. You begin to understand that no amount of success, status, or validation can compensate for the absence of inner calm. You can have wealth in your hands, but chaos in your heart, and that imbalance will always drain you. Peace is the foundation of a fulfilled life. Without it, everything else crumbles. That's why peace must be treated as sacred, a non-negotiable. Too often we give away our peace in pieces. We allow people's opinions to disturb our rest. We stay in environments that exhaust us. We say yes when we want to say no because we fear disappointing others. And slowly we begin to lose ourselves in the process. But real peace starts when you stop trading your sanity for someone else's comfort. When you stop letting chaos rent space in your mind. When you stop explaining why protecting your peace doesn't make you selfish, it makes you wise. Peace is not the absence of problems. It's the presence of stability in the midst of them. It's not about living a life without storms. It's about learning to stay calm while the wind blows. You can't control everything that happens around you. You can control what you allow to enter within you. The moment you start prioritizing peace, you begin to move differently. You start valuing silence over noise, discernment over drama, and purpose over popularity. When peace becomes non-negotiable, you no longer tolerate emotional chaos disguised as love. You no longer chase people who make you question your worth. You no longer entertain conversations that disturb your spirit. You stop trying to prove your value to those committed to misunderstanding you. You understand that not everything deserves your reaction. Sometimes the best response is no response at all. Silence is not weakness, it's strategy. It's you saying, oh, my peace is too valuable to be spent on nonsense. Protecting your peace will offend some people. They will call you distant, detached, or even arrogant. But that's because your boundaries threaten their control. They were comfortable with the version of you that overextended, overgave, overlooked your own needs. But now you're evolving, and that evolution demands protection. You no longer engage in every argument. You no longer attend every invitation. You no longer carry what's not yours to carry. That's growth. That's self-respect. Peace doesn't mean you're ignoring reality. It means you're refusing to let reality destroy your spirit. It means you've learned to breathe through the noise. You've learned to pause before reacting. You've learned that not everything requires your energy. You've learned that silence can speak louder than shouting. When you start choosing peace, you stop trying to fix what was never yours to fix. You stop begging people to see your heart. You stop fighting for places where your spirit no longer fits. It takes courage to prioritize peace, because peace often requires separation from habits, from relationships, from environments that no longer serve your growth. Sometimes you have to walk away from people you love to protect the calm you need. You can love someone deeply and still realize that being around them constantly disrupts your stability. That doesn't make you heartless. It makes you healthy. There's a difference between peacekeeping and peacemaking. Peacekeeping is when you sacrifice yourself to maintain the illusion of harmony. You suppress your truth, avoid confrontation. Carry silent resentment just to keep others happy. Peacemaking, however, is intentional. It's when you speak truth with love, set clear boundaries, allow what's meant for you to flow without forcing it. One drains you, the other frees you. True peace will always require honesty. When you start protecting your peace, your standards change. You no longer chase closure, you create it. You no longer beg for clarity, you choose it. You no longer tolerate emotional instability, you recognize it and detach. You begin to see that not everyone deserves access to your energy. Some people can only meet you in chaos because that's all they understand. You can love them, pray for them, and still step away. Because peace doesn't demand company, it demands alignment. You will notice that as you value peace more, your circle becomes smaller but stronger. Your schedule becomes lighter but more meaningful. Your life becomes quieter but richer. You stop needing constant stimulation to feel alive. You stop comparing your pace to others. You begin to enjoy stillness, not as a pause, but as a place of power. Because when you are at peace, you move from intention, not impulse. You make decisions with clarity, not confusion. You live from purpose, not pressure. Peace is power. It's what keeps you anchored when life shakes you. It's what allows you to walk through disappointment without losing your joy. It's what gives you discernment to know when to speak and when to stay silent. When you have peace, you no longer need to prove pointed to everyone. You no longer fight to be understood. You learn that understanding yourself is enough. The world will always try to pull you into noise. Social media will feed comparison. People will project their pain onto you. Life will throw challenges your way. But peace is your anchor. It's the inner voice that says, I may not have all the answers, but I'm okay. It's the calm that whispers, this too shall pass. When you walk in peace, you carry light, and that light confuses chaos. There's a quiet confidence that comes from a peaceful spirit. Challenge you to love and enough. You don't need to rush. You don't need to compete. You don't need to explain. You simply exist in alignment with what's true, and that truth sustains you. You realize that peace is not something you find, it's something you create, something you protect, something you guard with sacred strength. Make this decision today. Your peace will no longer be negotiable. You won't let anyone's mood dictate your mindset. You won't let anyone's chaos consume your calm. You won't allow circumstances to rob you of serenity. You've been through too much, healed from too much, learned too much to go back to a life of constant unrest. So choose peace even when it means walking away. Choose peace even when it means silence. Choose peace even when it's misunderstood. Because peace is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's not retreat, it's realignment. It's not avoidance, it's awareness. When you make peace your priority, your life transforms. Everything becomes clearer. Decisions become easier. You begin to attract people and opportunities that match your energy. You stop chasing and start attracting. You stop striving and start flowing. You stop surviving and start living, because peace is the soil where purpose grows. It's the environment where creativity flourishes, where love matures, where faith deepens. You owe it to yourself to live in peace. You owe it to your purpose, your calling, your future. Guard it fiercely, protect it daily, and remember, peace is not given, it's chosen. It's not found, it's cultivated. It's not negotiable, it's sacred. When you finally understand that, you'll stop begging the storm to calm. You'll become the calm within the storm. You'll stop chasing what disturbs you and start walking with what restores you. That's when you'll know that peace is not something you visit, it's who you've become. And once you reach that place, nothing and no one will have the power to shake it again. The spaces you live in, people you surround yourself with, and the energy you allow into your life all tell a story, not about who you appear to be, about what you truly believe you deserve. Your environment is a mirror quietly reflecting your level of self-respect, self-worth, and self-belief. If you want to understand where your esteem really stands, don't just look inside your heart, look around you. Look at the atmosphere you've built, conversations you tolerate, and the energy you keep. Your environment is never neutral. It either feeds your growth or starves it. Many people underestimate how powerful their surroundings are. They think it's just about location or decor, social circles, but it's much deeper than that. The environment you create is a physical manifestation of your internal reality. When your mind is cluttered, your space often follows. When your heart is heavy, your energy feels dim. And when your self-esteem is low, you tend to settle for environments that match that frequency, places that don't challenge you, people who don't value you, habits that don't stretch you. The truth is you will always attract what you believe you're worthy of. If you think you deserve peace, you'll build a life that nurtures calm. If you think you deserve chaos, you'll keep returning to what drains you. When you finally begin to see yourself differently, your standards shift, and so does your environment. That's why transformation always begins within. You can change your location, but if your mindset remains small, you'll recreate the same atmosphere wherever you go. But when your esteem rises, your environment must evolve to reflect it. Sometimes you have to take a hard look at the spaces you occupy. Ask yourself, does this place inspire me or exhaust me? Do the people around me challenge me or drain me? Do my daily routines align with who I want to become or who I used to be? The answers may not be comfortable, but they are necessary. Growth requires awareness, and awareness requires honesty. You can't fix what you refuse to face. Your environment speaks before you do. The way you keep your space, tone of your conversations, the quality of your relationships, all of it reflects your inner world. A person who values peace will create order around them. A person who values growth will surround themselves with visionaries. A person who values purpose will align their environment with discipline, focus, and intention. Your environment is a reflection of how seriously you take your calling. You cannot heal in the same environment that broke you. You cannot elevate while staying surrounded by energy that keeps you small. If you constantly feel like you have to shrink, apologize, or explain yourself to fit in, that's not your environment. That's your warning sign. Your spirit can't thrive in spaces that silence it. The moment you start honoring yourself, you will feel uncomfortable in environments that once felt normal. That discomfort is not rejection, it's redirection. It's your higher self whispering, you've outgrown this space. Changing your environment doesn't always mean packing up and moving somewhere else. Sometimes it's as simple as rearranging your atmosphere. Clean your space. Distance yourself from toxic energy. Replace negative conversations with meaningful ones. Replace distraction with discipline. Replace noise with stillness. When you take control of your environment, you take control of your peace. You can't rise while staying surrounded by low energy. It's not arrogance to protect your atmosphere. It's alignment. The people around you either push you forward or pull you backward. Pay attention to the language spoken in your environment. Is it filled with faith or fear? Is it rooted in growth or gossip? The energy you absorb daily is shaping your beliefs, your behavior, and ultimately your destiny. You can't expect to think higher while living in a space filled with limitation. Your environment should remind you of where you're going, not where you've been. Create spaces that nurture your vision. Surround yourself with people who speak life, not doubt. Listen to music, messages, conversations that elevate your perspective. What you allow into your atmosphere eventually becomes your attitude. If your surroundings don't feed your peace or your purpose, you're starving your potential. Think about it. A plant cannot flourish in poor soil. It needs light, nourishment, and space to grow. You are no different. If you remain planted in a toxic environment, your growth will always be stunted. You can't produce fruit in a place that constantly cuts at your roots. Sometimes the most spiritual act you can do is to reposition yourself, to say, I love where I've been, but I can't stay here. That's not abandonment, that's evolution. And here's the truth. When your esteem rises, your tolerance lowers, you stop making excuses for environments that disturb your peace. You stop over-explaining why you need solitude. You stop accepting less than you deserve just to stay comfortable. You begin to understand that comfort is not always safety. Sometimes it's a trap. Growth often begins the moment you decide you will no longer lie below your potential just to make others feel secure. You are not meant to survive in spaces that don't reflect your worth. You were created to thrive in abundance, purpose, and peace. But for that to happen, You must curate your atmosphere with intention. The conversations you engage in, the content you consume, the energy you allow, they're all shaping your mindset. Be selective, not selfish. You're not rejecting people, you're protecting your purpose. When you honor your environment, you honor yourself. You start to treat your space like sacred ground because it holds your dreams, your healing, and your focus. You start to see that clutter, chaos, and confusion are not random. They're reflections of what's unresolved within. So you clear your space. You create beauty. You choose calm. Because peace isn't found, it's built moment by moment, choice by choice. Your environment is not just physical, it's emotional, mental, and spiritual. Guard your mental environment by controlling what you focus on. Guard your emotional environment by setting boundaries with people who drain you. Guard your spiritual environment by feeding your soul with truth, gratitude, grace. When every part of your environment aligns with your esteem, you start living from power instead of pressure. Don't be surprised when people don't understand your shift. Some will say you've changed. Some will think you've become distant. You haven't changed. You've awakened. You've realized that your peace is priceless and your purpose too precious to be wasted in unhealthy atmospheres. The higher you rise, the quieter your circle becomes, not because you're better, but because your environment now matches your identity. So today, take inventory of your surroundings. Ask yourself, does this reflect who I am or who I used to be? If the answer leans toward the past, it's time to elevate, clean your atmosphere, curate your company, design your space to reflect your destiny. You don't need validation to outgrow what no longer fits. Because at the end of the day, your environment is the echo of your esteem. When you believe you are worthy of peace, you will build peace. When you believe you are worthy of excellence, you will demand excellence. When you believe you are worthy of love, you will only entertain what honors love. The moment you raise your esteem, your entire atmosphere begins to shift. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. When you start walking in self-worth, your environment will rise to meet you. So don't just decorate your space, elevate it. Don't just adjust your surroundings, align them. Because your environment is not just where you live, it's the reflection of how deeply you've learned to love yourself. There comes a moment in every person's life when they look around and realize, this can't be all there is. You start to feel a deep in your spirit, quiet whisper that says, there's more for you, more love, more peace, more purpose, more life than what you've been settling for. Somewhere along the way, you learned to silence that voice. You were taught to accept what's convenient, to be grateful for what's given. Even if it doesn't fulfill you, you convinced yourself that wanting more meant being ungrateful. But the truth is, you deserve more, not because you're entitled, but because you were created for fullness, not fragments. You deserve more than love that confuses you. You deserve more than relationships that drain you. You deserve more than opportunities that undervalue you. You deserve a life that feels as good on the inside as it looks on the outside. But that kind of life doesn't come from waiting for someone else to give it to you. It begins the moment you decide you're worthy of it. Too many people stay stuck in situations that no longer serve them because they've convinced themselves that comfort is a blessing. But comfort can be a cage. Just because something feels familiar doesn't mean it's right for you. Familiar pain can still be pain. Some people mistake endurance for peace. They keep enduring what was never meant to last because they're afraid to step into the unknown. You can't walk into your more while holding on to your less. Growth requires release. You deserve more than halfway love, halfway effort, halfway commitment. You deserve to be chosen, not tolerated. You deserve to be celebrated, not compared. You deserve to be seen, not just when it's convenient for others, but because your presence is valued. Stop explaining why you expect effort. Honesty and consistency, those are the basics, not the bonuses. When you truly know your worth, you stop negotiating it. Deserving more doesn't mean sitting around waiting for miracles. It means becoming the kind of person who can receive what you've been praying for. Sometimes more isn't just about abundance, it's about alignment. It's about doing the inner work that prepares you for what's next. You can't pour new blessings into old habits. You can't walk in purpose while dragging your past. You can't expect more if you keep showing up as less than your potential. The reason many people never step into the more they deserve is because they confuse humility with limitation. They think being humble means thinking small, dreaming small, or settling for less. But humility isn't denying your greatness. It's acknowledging where it came from. It's recognizing that you were given gifts, talents, and purpose, and it's your responsibility to use them fully. Playing small doesn't serve anyone. Shrinking yourself doesn't make you spiritual. It makes you silent when the world needs your voice. You deserve more peace, not the kind that comes from everything being perfect, but the kind that flows from within, kind that allows you to rest even in uncertainty, to trust even in transition. You deserve more joy, not just moments of laughter between chaos. Sustained joy that comes from living in alignment with your truth. You deserve more love, not just affection when it's easy, commitment when it's hard, love that builds, not breaks, love that waters your spirit, not drains it. Sometimes to receive more, you have to stop settling for what's convenient. You have to walk away from situations that make you feel small. You have to say no to opportunities that pay well but cost your peace. You have to let go of relationships that make you question your worth. Because the truth is, if you keep entertaining less, you'll never make room for more. You deserve more, but you have to believe that first. Nobody can convince you of your worth if you haven't accepted it yourself. Self-worth isn't built on applause. It's built on awareness. It's knowing who you are even when no one else recognizes it. It's reminding yourself that you are not defined by rejection, failure, or past mistakes. What happened to you doesn't determine what you deserve. Every lesson, every scar, every setback is shaping you into someone stronger, wiser, ready for more. You deserve to be in spaces where you can breathe freely, speak truthfully, and grow boldly. You deserve friendships that uplift you, not ones that leave you drained. You deserve to wake up excited about your day, not dreading it. You deserve to walk in rooms that recognize your presence, not ones where you have to constantly prove it. You deserve opportunities that stretch your potential, not ones that confine it. You deserve to be loved in the language you understand, through effort, consistency, and authenticity. When you finally understand that you deserve more, you stop chasing what's beneath you. You stop begging for what should be freely given. You stop justifying mistreatment. You stop making excuses for people's inconsistency. You stop trying to prove your worth to those who don't value it. You simply begin to walk differently with quiet confidence. Because when you know you deserve more, your energy changes. You stop running after doors that were never meant to open and start building your own. You deserve more, not because of your past, but despite it. You deserve more, not because you're perfect, but because you're willing to grow. You deserve more because you've endured, you've evolved, and you've earned the right to peace. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty for expecting more from life. Your desire for better isn't greed. It's divine alignment. It's your soul recognizing that mediocrity was never your destiny. Sometimes the journey to more requires solitude. You'll have to walk away from circles that celebrate your stagnation. You'll have to silence voices that tell you you should just be happy with what you have. You'll have to trust the voice inside that says, there's more to you than this. Because that's not discontent, that's calling. That's purpose pulling on you, asking you to rise higher. Yes, choosing more will cost you. It will cost comfort, convenience, and sometimes connection. But it will give you clarity, confidence, completeness. You'll lose people who can't understand your elevation. You'll outgrow places that no longer feel like home. But you'll gain peace. You'll gain joy. You'll gain alignment. And that trade is always worth it. So today, make the decision you will no longer settle for less than you deserve. You will no longer apologize for your standards. You will no longer confuse patience with procrastination. You will no longer wait for permission to step into your power. You are enough. You are worthy. You are capable and you deserve more. Not someday, not when you're perfect, not when life gets easier. You deserve more now. Right here, right where you are, with what you have, because your worth is not conditional. It's constant. It's not dependent on circumstances. It's defined by your creation. You were made for more. So stop shrinking, stop settling, stop surviving when you were born to thrive. Step into the more that's been waiting for you. More purpose, more peace, more love, more life. The world doesn't need a quieter version of you. It needs the full expression of who you are. You've spent enough time surviving in spaces too small for your spirit. Now it's time to expand, to rise, to believe again, because the truth is simple. You deserve more. Always have, always will.